might not be ready for what's about to happen to you, because as you see, not every warrior is defined by the battle they win or the thunder they bring, but by the ones they carry within themselves. In a world full of dragons, power, and obviously shifting loyalties, this man brought to life a man torn between honor, desire, and the direst of consequences. A knight who stood at the center of it all, not as a king, but as something far more dangerous, dare I say. A man with something to lose. You know him as Sir Criston, but today, that character of discipline, conflict, and raw human intensity is going to show another side of him, because today, you don't just meet the knight, but you are going to meet the person behind the armor. Ladies and gentlemen, on this very stage of Budapest Comic Con 2026, powered by MVM, we have none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Fabien Frankel!
Thank you.
What an absolute blessed to have you here today.
Thank you so much.
And I know for a fact that you had the chance to check out this lovely city of ours. What are your experiences so far?
I went to see the castle, you know, the area, what's it, castle, thank you, hello everyone. Yeah, we went to see the castles yesterday. I went to a bathhouse, which was sweaty. And yeah, I had a bunch. I drank at a few good bars, had some palenka, woke up hungover, and here I am.
And how long are you going to enjoy your company here in this beloved country of ours?
Well, it depends how much palenka I get before I drink.
These guys are excited. Wonder why. You also gave me a hint about the project that you are working on right now, and I know that we're not going to be able to discuss it in its entirety, but it seems like that it was quite, you know, easy for you to get here because you are doing some shooting these days.
Yeah, no, I'm shooting out here at the moment. I can't really say anything about it, but I am making a movie out here at the moment, which is, yeah, we're shooting like 25 minutes from the center of Budapest. So I'll be here for the next month.
Okay, plenty of time to try to catch you, never being able to, but like doing our best. Unfortunately, just because we organize Comic Con, we don't get a schedule to him, so it's not like gonna be selling other tickets to like other happenings throughout the country and the city. And we have a praise king here in Hungary. I told this to many actors today, and you mentioned that the industry is booming here in Hungary. From your perspective, from your point of view, what were your experiences?
I just find it amazing. Like, you know, I did a movie in Budapest 3.5 years ago in like the stark winter. It was freezing cold, and then I'm back, you know, 3 years later, and like last week, I don't know if everyone was like, "How are you guys here? Everyone lives here." But it was, you know, very hot, very sunny, very beautiful. Everyone out on the streets, drinking coffees and palenka, and so many cigarettes.
That's the smile we're looking for when it comes to showing palinka to someone abroad. Any favorite taste of palinka so far?
I did the raspberry one. It was really
okay.
I mean, I think if by the third palenka, you don't know which one you're tasting.
I see that you had a chance to meet Hatho, the man who embodies the mountain. It was such a wholesome moment, because I think you've never met each other before, right?
And it's quite sad actually, because I also play a knight in the Game of Thrones universe, but when you stand next to him, you're like, alright, well, I'm fucked, you know. I'm so glad I'm not in the same
ship. It was like he was a real car and you were the Hot Wheel next to it, right?
He's like an aeroplane and I'm like a tiny little helicopter.
Tiny drone.
Yeah, and I always feel like I wear armor, you know, in the show, and it looks like but when you, and I'm like a normal height, he is a true, like, you know, exemplary human being. Yeah, blown away.
And his character obviously struggles with a different conflict than yours. And we had him, we had Chris Judge before, and they are embodying characters who had to, you know, not unleash the physical raw power of their characters. And then we arrived to Sir Criston Cole. He's struggling with something else, not doing the best job, possibly.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree.
What is your take on dealing with a heartbreak? Like, is it the way to do it? Is it another way to do it? Something that everybody has to go through, but I wonder, is there like a better way to do it than his?
You know, I think that like murdering a man at a wedding is probably not the best way to go about heartbreak. You know, I'd like to think that like I won't be murdering anyone anytime soon. But, you know, I think it's an odd thing because obviously when you're playing a character like that, you're trying the best you can to like understand the mentality of someone like that. So you find justifications for actions. I watched this great interview with Christoph Waltz talking about playing Hans Lander, and I don't know if you saw it in Inglourious Bastard. He's like, they ask him, you know, how is it to embody such a villain? And he's like, I don't see him as a villain, even though he so clearly is. And so, you know, although I suppose Criston Cole's actions are so questionable at times, you know, you do the best you can as an actor to find a way into that, and it's so eloquently written as a show, so a lot of the answers are in the text, but there's also, you know, I think in a weird way, someone described it, they said, you know, you put someone who doesn't belong in a world inside a castle and lock him there for 25 years, he's going to start to lose his mind a little bit. Not to mention falling in love with both queens, you know, shifting allegiance. I
mean, at least if you are breaking some vows, you want to go straight for the A's, right?
Right. Come on, man. If you know, if you're going to take some risk, take all risks. And that's what you're doing. So.
When first I seen you in Game of Thrones related footage trailer, and I wasn't sure about the context, I was like, oh my god, are they going to film a young Robert Baratheon? I'm a huge Baratheon fan, not that anybody asked, but I'm a huge Baratheon fan. And do you have a favorite house? Like, do you connect with the franchise on a fan level? Is it for you? Is it just going through the POV of Sir Criston Cole, or do you actually experience the fandom as well?
I mean, I loved Game of Thrones. You know, when I was at drama school, I remember, like, you know, I'd just come out of drama school, and Game of Thrones was like the biggest show on TV, and I was, you know, you go around, and I was working like in catering, like, you know, for fancy events, and I remember like I was with my brother, and you know, it was like someone asked me, a family friend, like, what are you doing? I was like, well, I'm an actor, and my brother was like, dude, you're not really an actor yet. You know, you need to be in something like Game of Thrones. And then like 3 years later, I was like, psych, motherfucker.
How do you like them apples?
I was like, what about that? No, I'm only joking. But yeah, no, I was a big fan of Game of Thrones. Obviously, like, you know, everyone. It's the best, one of the best shows ever.
So did you have a favorite house?
Yeah, I like the Martells a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, man, because they're Dornish, you know, like, that's my people right there.
Right there.
Okay. Pascal. Like, if I grow a moustache, maybe, you know, no, it won't be as good.
So you were, I can reckon, a big Oberyn Martell fan back in the day.
It's awesome, dude. Yeah.
So, doing the first season, obviously, new material, new character to get into. But by the time you start shooting a second season, obviously this is a different vibe. Obviously the first time you sit next to the script of a second season, that's different. When you were going through the pages of season 2, was there like a vibe to Criston Cole, who yet again makes some questionable decisions? Did you have a moment where you're like, brother, again and again and again, what are we doing?
Yeah, you know, you're always like reading the script going, oh buddy, not again, dude. But I was, you know, I had such a good season in season 2, and I think, you know, Sarah, one of our writers, described it, you know, you only have so many POV characters that you're following their journey, and they're not serving so much someone else's, and I was lucky enough in the second season to kind of get my own path. Now, that path wasn't the biggest success, but, you know, it was cool to lead a war, albeit, you know, an ill-fated one, but yeah.
You are taking an amazing role in the task as well these days. Is there like an HBO family that we can talk about? Like sometimes you have this feeling that there is maybe, like when you see Pixar movies and someone comes up with a theory that it's all connected, because if you look at that one toy and that car and then they are making these hints, sometimes I have this feeling that obviously these are different universes, but like, is there like an HBO family sort of thing, a vibe to these productions that like connected to each other?
You know, I mean, it's, in a lot of ways, like like anyone, I think HBO, no shade on anyone else, but I think HBO make the best TV in the world, and I think they have done for the last, 25 years. So I feel immensely proud to have, been able to work with them on 2 separate shows, and a lot of the publicity team for House of the Dragon is the same publicity team that was also on Task. So in that sense, there is a family. And it's the same, the bosses are all the same, the people that like choose whether we live or die are the same. So, yeah, it's just they make such good TV because they care so much. And that's, that's why they don't just make anything. I think with some of these, at times there's so much commissioned at so many different studios, and I think HBO is so selective on what they make. And they champion filmmakers so much, and so I think if you're, an aspiring writer or an aspiring producer, director, there's no studio you would want to work for more than HBO, and I feel the exact same as an actor.
A round of applause for the crew members out there at these amazing shows. Is there any position in a crew that you look at, have no idea about their business, but you admire them so much? The technicality, the courage, the vibe that they bring to the set?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think that there's a lot of hidden gems on a film crew. Like the stunt guys, the stunt men and women, like don't get any credit. And I'm like, the Oscars has a category for just about everything. There is no category for best stunts. And I think that's wild because, these men and women are putting their lives at risk so that we can look cool jumping out of an airplane. Because none of us is going to do it unless we're Tom Cruise. And so, yeah, huge admiration for them. And the PAs, who are the people, who greet you in the morning, the first people there, the last people to leave, and they don't get anywhere near the credit they deserve. And so there's so many facets, and obviously, like, as the actors, we're put front and center as the vision of the thing, but we are like just a very tiny percentage of what makes these shows tick. And I really mean that. Like, we do the least amount of work. That's the truth. Yeah.
That's such a respectable way to put it. Some would argue that maybe saying the least job is extreme, but I always love when an actor comes out and says great words about the cast members. I'm looking at this particular picture over here, and I noticed that you are wearing your lovely white armor. And I've seen the new show, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and then we see members of the King's Guard. This is the 3rd show where you meet members of the King's Guard. Do you have the DiCaprio meme, from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but he's like, oh, do you have like this, seeing any Game of Thrones material? Oh, that's one of us guys. What does it mean for you to be a knight?
Well, I suppose from being such a big fan of Game of Thrones, you look, especially like with being Hand of the King and stuff, which is, I suppose, the highest honor of version of that. You feel a sense of like camaraderie. Like I remember I've told the story so many times, but I met the actor who plays Jaime Lannister, Nikolai Coster-Waldau, like 6 months before filming House of the Dragon, and I was like, before the show had come out, and I was like, man, I'm kind of like you, not really. And I think he thought I was like completely making it up. We were in a bar, and he was like, all right, dude, relax. I was like, no, I was drunk on Palenka, no. And yeah, you feel a sense of camaraderie, but I'm very proud to be a member of the King's Guard.
We just had an interesting discussion with Chris Judge, and we started to talk about what it's like to be a man, because masculinity these days is dissected, and a lot of people have strong words for what a man should be. And we have a lot of main influencers and the red pill movement that says one thing, then women are saying another, and then actors are saying a third thing, people with families saying another. Do you have this sense of, because these are not popular topics these days, right? Honor, how to be chivalrous. When it comes to these kind of topics, what is it? Do you have any code that you live by? Do you have anything to say about manhood?
You know, I don't know if I can speak to manhood in its entirety, but, you know, I was raised by a single mother. I feel immensely, you know, like, proud to be, I've been surrounded by women my whole life, and I've been surrounded by obviously men my whole life, as we all have. And I think ultimately if you show people respect, be they man, woman, transgender, anyone, like, you know, you should just show the same amount of respect to everyone and people will show respect back. I think at the end of the day, like, we're at a time in society where everything feels so extreme and we're all so, everyone seems so divided. And I think ultimately, like, if you can shake someone's hand and look them in the eye and pay them the same amount of respect that you would want to be paid, then the world will be a better place.
That's a huge round of applause for that. A love letter to this particular crowd, because they have been going absolute crazy throughout the whole day. Have you had your signing and shooting session?
Yeah, I did some signing. I'm amazed, but I'm always amazed when I come to these things, like the level of effort that goes into these costumes, like, it just blows my mind, you know, like, I can't even change a light bulb. So, you know, yeah, truly blown away.
What was your first event such as this? What was the first time that you actually had to face not just a few people who are rushing to you for an autograph? Wasn't like an event where somebody recognized you, or a press event where it's a lot of professionals, but like a huge Comic Con style of event where there are dozens of fans, hundreds, thousands.
Great question. You know, I went to San Diego Comic Con right before the show was out, so no one really knew any of us.
Okay.
And I remember, like, all I heard was someone go like, that guy plays Criston Cole, I hate that dude. Like, okay, nice to meet you. But, you know, I guess that, you know, the book has its own way of...
When you first realized that you're gonna be Criston Cole, did you know that you are going to take the Joffrey part, the Joffrey lane? A bit?
Well, a bit.
A bit?
I did know a bit. I mean, I read the book, obviously. I read, like, you know, certainly our section of Fire and Blood that applied to the House of the Dragon arc. I had an idea, like, I remember Ryan sitting me down and saying, you know, he's gonna change. I didn't know what that meant, and I do now. But, yeah, I mean, it's funny because I suppose when you're playing the part, you don't even see it that way. Like, I'm sure that the actor who played Joffrey didn't see him just as this kind of like one-dimensional, even though we have this idea of what they are. And I kind of feel like that about Criston Cole. And certainly what I think they did so well at the end of the second season was like edge an arc of understanding the why of this person. Mm-hmm. And I think that makes it so, you know, it's so interesting.
There is definitely a whole other dimension for Criston Cole. What I was trying to say is that the reaction from fans could be similar.
Yeah,
because, you know, in that state of mind, the fans are quite simple people. Every single one of us, including myself. Like, we have to put everybody into categories, fictional characters,
sure.
Unfortunately, real characters as well.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose in a weird way, I'll be very interested to see, like, as the next 2 seasons of Dragons unfold, how people's opinions on these characters shift. Because I think they innately will, you know, as season 3 and 4 come out. So I'm excited for people to, you know, recalibrate in a sense.
What we love, there are many aspects that we love about a good HBO show, flagship HBO shows, but one of them is obviously the costume design, is that they are just going out their way to make the perfect vibe and sets. And it's always these great attributes to characters. Now, if we look at the task and we look at House of Dragons, obviously one of them is a fantasy set and obviously the other one is a detective set, but like, what is closer to your heart right now? It's not a personality test, but what is it that you are vibing more these days? Donning a Kevlar armor and a 9mm, or like a knight's armor and a great sword?
Jeans and a t-shirt, man.
Jeans and a t-shirt, man, every day.
It's so different. The world is such a big factor in House of the Dragon. So the costumes, the sets, it's not set in our world, and that's why I think people love it so much. Why people love fantasy so much. It takes you completely out of your own head. So like, if I want to be somewhere that is not here for the day, I'm gonna go watch. I'd much rather go watch a Lord of the Rings or a Game of Thrones, or But then if I want to like get into some grittier shit, I'm gonna be watching like True Detective and Mare of Easttown or something like that. So.
Yeah, when I first saw the first trailer of your show, I was like, man, I have to go back to first season of True Detectives. It's something that I every now and then have to do. Not everybody know here that you have experience behind the camera as well. Could you tell us about those ventures and how does one experience changing the other? What is the evolution behind this?
Yeah, it's massively. I directed a music video for some friends of mine. This was like 2.5 years ago, and my brother produced it. And we've done now a couple of jobs together. And we started up our production company last year, and we've got a bunch of projects on the go at the minute. But we're actually producing something that Ewan Mitchell, who plays Aemond, is starring in. That's going to be out at the end of the year, which I'm really excited for people to see. But I think, and I'm so grateful that I got to be behind the camera, because, and I know I said it earlier, but like, actors are just such a small part of what you're thinking about. And I think as an actor, in your head, you're like, oh my God, you put too much self-importance on your, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the actors aren't massively important, but it's like, when you're directing or producing, you're thinking about like 50 different departments, and every department needs an answer on something. And yes, what's happening on camera in the moment is the pinnacle thing that it's going to end up riding on in your edit and stuff. But in the lead up to that, there's so many other things that need thinking about. And I suppose what it makes you want to do as an actor is be as easygoing as humanly possible on a film set, because the last thing you need is a stroppy actor to ruin your day when everyone else has been hustling to kind of make the day go,
How does directing affecting your acting? What is changing ever since that?
It just makes me not like acting. I don't know, I love being an actor, but I don't know, I think there's a real freedom that one has where I think acting is so much ownership on oneself. You just are thinking about yourself and your performance and it's quite a sort of self-involved gig to a degree. And I think being a director really takes you out of yourself. And especially with directing music videos, I've directed 2 of them, and the idea of getting to create something that exists in your head and then exists on screen. Like, I'm doing this movie at the moment, and I won't say too much about it, but the concept is so out there, and our director and her husband who wrote it, like, they have come up with this crazy movie that existed for like 3 years in their heads, and every day I go set and they're like, oh shit, this is just what I thought it was going to be. And I think that that is such an amazing feeling that you just can't get as an actor. You just don't have that realization thing because you're so inside yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any great directors that I almost said would you recommend to us, but like. What are your comfy movies that you return to just to make sure that you get through a hard day or a hard night?
Well, my comfy movies is slightly different to the directors. Not to say that I wouldn't love to make one of these, but there are movies I don't think I could ever be in that I love. Like my comfort movies with my brother were like The Mask of Zorro.
Okay.
And, The Incredibles and Harry Potter. And,
woo!
Yeah. The Mask with Jim Carrey, but there are like filmmakers like Paul Thomas Anderson or Alejandro Iñárritu or Guillermo del Toro, that I would like give anything to work with. And the list goes on and on. Grego, I could go on, but yeah.
I really loved that you mentioned that one dude who was like, you're not an actor yet.
Yeah.
Being an actor right now, how do you handle actors who are not actors yet approaching you? How do you, what is the message that you are sending to people who are right now working at fancy events, who are right now dreaming of becoming a Knight of the Seven Kingdom, a member of the King's Guard? What is your message for people out there struggling to make it one day?
Such a great question. You know, this is always my advice is it takes time, man. It just takes time. And I think if you want to be an actor because you want to be famous, then you're in the wrong profession. Mm-hmm. I think you've got to want to do this so badly that nothing else matters. And I think if you work hard enough for long enough, I really believe it will happen. But there's no, it's not a shortcut. There's no, and don't get me wrong, like you can get luck, right? Like my grandma had this amazing quote. She said, luck comes knocking at everyone's door, but if you can't get off the couch to open it, it will go knock somewhere else.
Love that one.
And I thought that was like, that's what I feel this industry is. It's so much luck. There are so many actors I went to drama school with who are so much more talented than I am. And I mean that not in like a, you know, sort of, to sound, you know, self-deprecating or anything, like genuinely more talented than me, and it's just it's luck. A lot of it is luck, but I think if you can stick it out long enough, mm-hmm. You know, luck will in some capacity come calling.
I love that. I've seen a new show, a Marvel show, Wonder Man, and there is this scene where the Ben Kingsley character goes to the main lead. They are both playing actors who cannot make it in Hollywood just yet. And he says it to him that you are an actor, your job is not to go to auditions, your job is not to take the part, your job is not to go to the shooting, your job is to experience life all the time.
That is the truest.
And I wonder, you're mentioning that you're gonna be here for a month. Obviously, that is like a lot of time, and a lot of from that time is being on set, doing the thing. But then there is a shit ton of time when you are not on set, not doing the thing. What is it that you experience outside of the set usually? And I'm not talking about Budapest, I'm not talking about the city, but I'm talking about on a more existential level. What is it that in between sets you usually try to experience, you usually try to do?
It's a great question as well. Thank you, Gregory, for that. It's, you know, live life, man. You just gotta live life. You just gotta go and do everything. Say yes to things. Like, just say yes to everything as much as you can, because like, you won't regret the things you did, you'll regret the things you didn't do. Because those are the things when you sit in your room and you go, oh man, I should have fucking gone to that thing. You just don't know who you're gonna meet, where you're gonna end up, the conversations you're gonna have. And it's true, like, being an actor is just lived experience, you know? The more you do, the more you've gotta go through heartbreak. You've gotta like, you know, you've gotta go through the ups and downs of life, because that's what you're trying to portray to a degree on screen and make people believe you know, that you are this thing or going through these things. And I think if you haven't gone through a lot and you've been sat in your room, and you know, we're at a time in this generation specifically where people are on their phones the most. And by the way, I can be like that. I'm not sitting here on a high horse. Like, I have my days where I can be on my phone and my computer, but if you don't get up and out, you will just live in this like fantasy version of life that I think won't serve you. You know, fall in love, fall out of love, go to the movies, go to the theater, go to galleries, speak to people, have conversations. You know, like there's nothing more amazing. There's nothing more amazing than the people you meet. That's the one thing I will say. Wherever you go in the world, there are amazing people everywhere. Sorry, this is like a fucking hype up speech. All right, fine. But you know, I really do believe that. Like there are amazing people everywhere, and if you don't get up and meet them, you're never gonna know what they were like. You know.
It is really about other people. By the way, you are constantly referencing other Jim Carrey movies. For example, Yes Man. He just did a Yes Man reference, right? What is the number one thing you would like to, as a farewell to this beloved crowd for today, say? Because most of these guys are gonna be here next day for the second day of Comic Con 2026, and it is about other people, it is about meeting other people. What is your number one advice when you are at such a lovely event, how to approach other people?
Oh man, just smile. You know, smile goes a long way.
Smile goes
Just smile.
Fabien, thank you so much. With that great smile of yours, with that great smile of you people, we are closing in on the first day of Budapest Comic Con 2026. Thank you, man. What an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. This is us closing this section. Nagyon szépen köszönjük, hogy itt voltatok velünk. Szét fogjuk tolni a törgéket holnap is fantasztikus színpadi beszélgetésekkel. Azt javaslom nektek, hogy gyertek el holnap itt. Milyen jó, hogy megálltatok. Another round of applause for this.